Hey guys, April and Stubby here, your cat health coach and your cat health coach helper, right? We are talking all about vaccines today. So, big, very important topic. Lots of info. I'll try to condense it as much as I can. So, the number one thing I want to address is the fact that it is very important to be sure that you space out vaccines. Oh, we have somebody mowing the yard over there. That's great. Thought I'd do it outside today since it's nice in Florida finally. That you space out the vaccines for your cats. And this is looking at their health from a holistic point of view like I do. Unfortunately, a lot of veterinarians are strictly conventionally trained and not holistically trained, and they don't look at the body and the immune system in the same manner. And so whenever you get a vaccine, what it's doing is you're administering a killed version or a modified live version of whatever that infectious body is that you're vaccinating against, whether it's a bacteria or a virus. So with this, your immune system needs to then take that material, take that killed or modified live virus, and create an immune response to it. That's the whole point. That's the whole job of the vaccine, is to trigger the immune system to react, produce antibodies to that particular substance, and allow your pet to have then a greater immunity to that particular infectious disease in the future. So that takes work. That takes work for the immune system to produce the right cells. There's T helper cells and lymphocyte cells and all these different immune cells that go to work when you get a vaccine. And it can take up to a couple weeks for that response to be completely through the process and for the immunity to be built entirely. So one big thing I want to stress, and I always stress to people, is to make sure that you space your kitten vaccines out. You want them to go in and get just one vaccine that they need at a time, and space it out 2 to 3 weeks is really best, so that their body isn't overwhelmed by suddenly taking in all of this different material that's triggering their body to produce an immune response to. Because sometimes if there is going to be an immune reaction to a vaccine, a lot of times that's the problem, that's the trigger, is that there was too many vaccines done at once, 2, 3, I just cringe when I see 3, even 4 vaccines sometimes done on a little tiny baby animal that their immune system already isn't even fully developed. And this can create a bad situation. This can create a bad immune response and reaction. And this tends to lead to some of these situations where you hear of animals getting really ill or even dying, or triggering something like an autoimmune condition. It's being proven now more and more every day that autoimmune conditions can be triggered by vaccines because they're just overstimulating the immune system so much. So that's the big thing. You have to be responsible. You have to be the voice for your kitty who can't talk for themselves. And even if your vet says that it's okay that they can have all these vaccines at the same time at one day, you have to understand the veterinarian vaccines is a big part of their income and their practice. And oftentimes they want to get all the vaccines done at once because it's more convenient that way. And they might worry that you might not come back in 2-3 weeks for the next vaccine like you're supposed to, because life gets busy and that happens. So, they may be trying to do the best thing for you and for your animal to get those vaccines done, but they may not have the same perspective and understand that doing that many different vaccines at one time can potentially pose a problem, more so than I think what is often recognized in conventional veterinary medicine. So be sure you're the one standing up for your kitty and saying, no, I choose to just have one vaccine at a time and let's space them out. So, then as far as the actual types of vaccines go, if you know, and I'm talking here mostly you're getting a new kitten. So if you're getting a new kitten and your kitten comes home and they're hopefully about 12 weeks old from a good breeder, and your kitten's had by that time usually just 1, maybe 2 rounds of vaccine. So the only vaccines that your kitten should need moving forward is what's called the FVRCP, or distemper vaccine is known as, and this covers the general spectrum of all of the most common viruses that cats tend to suffer from. And then the only other vaccine that they will really need is a rabies vaccine, and that's required by every state, so you have to do that as well. And the distemper vaccines should be given at a period of about, when your kitten's about 8 weeks old, 12 weeks old, and 16 weeks old, or sometimes spaced just 3 weeks apart. And then the rabies vaccine you want to be given at about 16 weeks of age, no sooner than 16 weeks of age. So those are really the 2 only vaccines that you need if you're going to have just an indoor cat who has no exposure to any other outdoor animals. If you have the only few other vaccines that I would recommend, because again, I look at everything from a holistic point of view, and the less amount of vaccines given to an animal in their body, the less chance of reactions, the less chance of cancers from the vaccines, etc. So the only other vaccines you would want to consider is if you have a cat who also lives with a dog, and the dog goes to a boarding facility and is exposed to other dogs, or the dog goes to a dog park frequently, then there is a risk that your dog could pick up Bordetella infection and actually give that to your cat. And this is something that a lot of people don't know and recognize. It's very recognized in dogs. Dogs are vaccinated for Bordetella every 6 months, but cats often aren't vaccinated or aren't even offered this. So for myself, our dogs aren't exposed to other dogs frequently, so that's not something I would give to Stubborn. But if I did take my dog to the dog park every couple weeks or whatnot, that's when I would definitely be giving to Stubborn to protect him. Then the other one you would want to recommend potentially is the feline leukemia vaccine, and that one you would want to give to your cat if your cat maybe lives with another cat that goes indoor-outdoor, even though, you know, we don't promote cats going outside for so many reasons, but sometimes, you know, in certain situations, some people's, furred cats do go in and out. And if that's the case, then you want even your indoor cat to get vaccinated for the feline leukemia vaccine, because your cat going outdoors, even if they're vaccinated, they're at risk of acquiring the infection and then could give it to your indoor cat. The other consideration in that situation is if in a place like what I have here with a screen porch, if your cat is frequently outside on an area like a screen porch and there's a lot of feral cats in your neighborhood, you would also want to consider it, because you wouldn't ever know unless you're always supervising your cat on the porch, but you wouldn't ever know that maybe a feral cat could come up to the screen where your cat is and get in a fight with them, maybe scratch, bite through the screen, anything like that. That's how it's going to be transmit. And so those are really the big reasons why you would want to consider the feline leukemia vaccine. But if your cat's only indoors and they don't have that exposure, then don't consider giving that vaccine to your cat. A lot of veterinarians will promote that vaccine, but again, if there's no real risk of any outdoor animal around, any outdoor cat around your cat, then it's not needed, it's not required. So those are the vaccines, and just again, be sure that you're spacing the vaccines out the best you can to keep your kitty safe. And the only last thing I would point out to talk to your vet about, and consider being sure that you think this through ahead of time, is that any of the vaccines available can be given in what's called the non-adjuvanted form, and this form of the vaccine doesn't have all of the added stuff in the vaccine that the manufacturer puts in, which is supposed to help it penetrate into the body better and supposedly create a better immunity. However, it's this added stuff, it's this adjuvanted stuff, which is what triggers cancer-induced responses to vaccines. It's been proven in studies that cats will not, or dogs will not, develop any vaccine-related sarcomas or cancers if they have the non-adjuvanted forms of the vaccine. So very important thing to consider, and a lot of veterinarians are not offering this unless you ask for it because it is more expensive. But very interesting. Last year I spoke with the man who actually created this form of the vaccine several years ago. He's one of the ones in charge of one of the big vaccine companies, and he told me a lot about it. It was a very interesting perspective, and he told me that literally there will be zero cancer if you get this type of vaccine instead, and it just wipes that concern and that worry right off the map. So very, very important stuff to consider. That's the only type of vaccine I'll ever be giving my boy to keep him safe and make sure we don't ever get cancer that could be 100% preventable. Alright, so I try to keep it short and sweet. Sorry, it was a lot of information. Hope it really helps you guys. Keep those kitties happy and healthy. Bye.